they present as really the biggest challenge that you guys might face?
A lot of challenges. I mean, they got a good team. They got a lot of different ways they can score. They're used to winning at their place. They're used to winning in general. They're just a good team. They got a good inside game. Obviously, they have some real good perimeter guys as well, and a couple of guys that are in between too. So they just know how to play. They know how to win. They know what their style is. They understand what their DNA is, and they play to that. So we just got to go there, and we'll practice tomorrow on some of the things that we want to get better at. That will prepare us for what they do specifically. But a large part of it will be us just being able to do the things that we want to be good at as well.
Lamont, 7 games left. You guys can talk about first place, about the regular season title, since it's right there to be had.
Yeah, we haven't yet, but to be honest with you, in my mind, that last game was kind of, I think, the domino we needed to fall before we could start having the audacity to look at what the standings are and where we are in the standings, right? And so I think we are to that point. Certainly the guys have, and so we'll talk about it a little bit. But we're focused on. We had a great practice today, tremendous energy at practice today, and so hopefully we'll have a good one tomorrow before we hit the road. But I think we're still really committed to trying to improve our product. I think there's still some room for growth in our product, and so at some point that won't be the case. We'll be doing it all. We'll be playing the best that we can possibly play, and then you just try to do that for as long as you can. And you can't do that for a whole season. I don't think you can do it for 2 months, but if you can start finding your way into that mode here in the next week or two, I think you can do that for the rest of the season and ride it off. So just worried about getting better still.
Do you worry about this team now going into a game where the number next to y'all is a higher number than the team you're going up against? Do you worry about them that going to their heads at all, or you think they do a good job of setting that stuff aside?
No, I don't think. I'm not worried about that specifically. That was the case in the last game, right? And so I just think I think we've talked about the number, and we joked around that the number shrank over the weekend, right? And the more things that you end up getting done, the number will continue to shrink if you have successes. But we don't. At this point, it was a big deal at one point that our guys wanted a number next to their name. I think they felt slighted at some point, so we were so focused on some other things that it kind of took care of itself. That we weren't over the top with the number, consumed with the number anymore. And so I think that's where we are. Auburn's gonna play incredibly hard because that's what they do. It's a home game for them. They're in a race with 7 games left, and we're a team that's also in the race, okay? The fact that we have a number and where it relates to their number, I think there are so many more factors that are going to motivate them to play really hard regardless. That by the time it gets down to that won't be as much of a factor. But we'll just have to get prepared to go in there for a real battle.
How have you seen these guys managing the pressure throughout this year, and what are some of the conversations that you've observed them having amongst themselves? I think we've all had a plan of what we wanted to do and what our own expectations were. Obviously, in November, no one's expectations met our expectations, but our expectations have always been high, not necessarily from a wins and loss perspective, but just for how we would approach the game, how we would play with one another, and what that would look like as a basketball team. And so when you have such a high expectation of yourselves that way, I think that you can minimize the amount of pressure that's on you. So I think they've handled it great. We have such a high energy and positive minded group that I think they're just enjoying themselves and having fun and relishing the number of days that we'll still get to practice. We've probably got maybe 20 more practices left with this group. So I think they're really just diving into enjoying the time that we have with each other.
Lamont, going back to the beginning of the season, and I heard you about Kary Boley. There's a lot being said. Did you consider him a potential starter, definite starter in the preseason before he got sick?
Yeah, he was going to start. He was going to start for us. I mean, he had earned that. Yeah. He just had performed so well. He was doing so many things. Just a lot of it for young guys, especially.
it comes down to maybe if they're a specialist offensively, a guy who really makes shots, a guy who really uses the ball screen well. I think it's hard for guys to carve their way as young guys if it only is predicated upon being generally good at offense. He had really carved his way out for a bunch of other things that he did, just defensively, the physical impact that he can have on the game as a rebounder, as just as a ball screen defender. He's got tremendous, I keep talking about his hand-eye coordination as if this was baseball or golf, but he's got tremendous hand-eye coordination, and that serves him well in some of the things that he does too. But yeah, he had earned the right to call for him to be a starter before we started playing games this year.
Him being a local kid at Florida and then going out to Utah to play his senior year, keep in touch with him, and you just got I just kind of know about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when you have a local prospect that is signed and committed to you, and then they go somewhere else. And so I thought it would have been good for him to be around here, honestly, just to be able to make it over to more practices, watch games, for me to be able to see him more. You know, when he was in Utah, it was an extremely difficult place to get to, and it's not close to Columbia, as you know. But it ended up being exactly what he needed. I think he just was out there on his own, and there wasn't a lot for him to do in terms of, I think he just had less distractions, and his commitment to, one, developing and changing his body, which is hard for young guys. It's hard for anybody, take my word for it, but it's hard to commit to your diet the way that he did while he was out there on his own. That was really impressive, and as well to just developing his game. He went out there and he lived and breathed basketball while he was out there, and he reaped the benefits of that when he came back here.
Speaking of Colin, it's been a while since this program was getting things like Freshman of the Week honors. Just where's the pride level for him and getting some recognition?
Yeah, it's fun for him. I think he's really prideful just because, you know, he's from around here. He grew up and has probably seen a ton of Gamecocks basketball or games and just Gamecocks sporting events in general. So the pride that comes with that, but then to also achieve in a way that the rest of your league acknowledges you as one of the best freshmen for any particular week or any game, certainly for a season. I think it's a special thing when guys can be acknowledged by their peers. I think it's the highest praise that you can get when your peers acknowledge you.
Obviously, the defense has been solid out here, but some things really traveled this year too and been solid on their own. How key is that in a league like this, especially going against a team like Auburn that's been scoring a lot?
Yeah, I think defensively, I mean, it's just the way I've been brought up in this profession was that, was to value playing good defense. And that doesn't mean that we ignore offense. I mean, I think if you listen to most people talk about us, they talk about how we share the ball. They talk about the quality of shots that we generate. They talk about the fact that we don't turn the ball over very often. They talk about a lot of different offensive things that don't just happen. I think our efficiency offensively is really high. But having said all that, with me it starts with defense. I just don't believe that you can ever be that consistent offensively. You're going to have bad days at the office. And if you try really hard, there won't be too many bad days at the office on the defensive side of the ball. So our guys have been committed to it. They focused on it. They tried really hard. I keep saying that. I don't want to make it seem like, that's supposedly where it should all start, right? But these guys tried really hard to do the things that we asked them to do on the defensive side of the ball, and it's produced results.
I saw you yesterday. What did you take away from that game? And just the fact that these two teams are combined 44-3, the best combined record in the country.
Yeah, we're dragging it down big time. Dawn's doing her thing, and that's nothing new. So, but it was fun for me just to go. I mentioned this before. You're in a season. You don't get to be a fan very often. It's just not what you get to do. So to be able to go to the game and just get on the refs from where I was sitting and do it in a way that a fan does it was a lot of fun for me to do it. And they got such a good team, such a great program, and their girls they represent the university and the program so well. It's just fun. They're easy to cheer for. It's easy to cheer for them, and so it was fun for me to go in there and be able to do